I don't bring myself. Yeah. My first I got if you want I can say you can sit Monday night. Why do I have levels? What do you think? Let's see later. I told you I did. Okay, I think you're a business. I was probably. Text you that way. This is it's on. Thanks for all that. No, don't worry. Awkward one. What did you say? Really? Is it stay like this? When she came back later, did she stop? Halfway came back later. Oh,
If that works. Technical difficulties, guys.
Bueno.
No bueno. And I got him out.
I have this answer here. I just didn't want to.
No, you can absolutely just improvise with the clicker, right? Oh. Ryan, I need it back. I certainly forgot for you. Let me hit the music for you guys and we will get this going. Perfect. All right, you're good to go.
Welcome, everyone. My name is John Barnado. If you don't already know me, I'm the team leader here at KW Sacramento. Welcome, welcome. We're so happy to have esteemed guest, Ryan Lundquist here, appraiser extraordinaire. So happy to have him doing his big market update. It's going to be super exciting. I know you all want to know what's happening in the market and how it's going to change and go forward. But this is hopefully very helpful to your business. And without further ado, Ryan,
Thank you.
welcome.
Figure out how I actually move with this thing.
Oh, over, so just pull it over like you're on that screen. There you go.
There you
Now do it.
Yeah.
And you can click.
Okay. So
There you go.
oh my gosh, no, this is gonna be a nightmare. So this is not gonna work. So what we're gonna need to do, either get one that does work, or I'm gonna have to obnoxiously point to you the whole time, and you're gonna have to be on it. I have a crazy amount of slides.
I'm so on it.
Okay, when I point to you, so go back to the beginning.
Easy peasy.
It is what it is, so I can't control that, but I can control our talk today. And so, and if you could go back to the beginning, please. Yeah, thank you so much. Nope, that's not the beginning. The beginning is the other one. So it's the beginning in Europe. But it's good to see everyone. Hi. I hope you know that I was given an hour or so to talk today. You thought it was going to be 20 minutes. Dear God, I'm sorry. There's so much to talk about. Isn't this a weird market? Yes. And so what I want you to do is, once you leave here, I want you to understand sort of what the market's doing. Maybe pick up some talking points for how to share about the market. I want you to be writing down notes to be like, here are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things I can share on my reels, on my Facebook, in my blog posts, in your newsletters. We want to tell the story of the market, and I want you to also anticipate future business. How can you focus your business? Okay. And so we're in a market where I would say last year felt like a crash landing, right? It's like we were on the airplane, the oxygen masks came down, and we were preparing for this huge crash. But then this year it feels like, you know, the pilot's taking a selfie. It feels like more like it hasn't been this sharp descent. We've experienced normal seasonality. But then now we have the situation where Chuck Norris eats 8% rates for breakfast, but we kind of have to think like, what about consumers, right? That can change demand, right? And so we're in a place where I think the best way to describe the market is this: it's either crickets or bidding wars. Would you concur?
Yeah.
I feel like this is just the slogan to represent the market, right? And so it's really a market with low supply and low demand. We've never had a market like this before. There's a lot of parallels to 2007, and what I'm going to do is kind of walk through how is it the same, how is it different. But it really feels like today's market is like the love child between 2007 volume and 2020 competition. And so just to get awkward. But one note before we jump into slides, right? I just want to say that this is not a doom talk. Okay, my goal here is not for you to leave here going, oh my gosh, I need to, you know, start exotic dancing or whatever you're doing. I can't make it in real estate. My goal for you is, you're like, I'm like, I better work dad bod, right? But there's probably a market for like dad bod dancers, you know? But I just want to say, this isn't about housing, dude, but you are gonna, I think, probably have a sobering, wake up in some senses where you go, oh, wow, these stats are stunning. And I want you to be real about the market, but I want you to be encouraged. I want you to be successful. And that's the whole goal here today. Okay, so let's jump in. Are you ready for conversation? Be way more fun than we have talked. So what do you notice when you look at the number of new listings in the region, the top bar, compared to every other year? This is January through September. What's the trend? A lot lower. Yeah, a lot lower, right? And so we've experienced about 40% of sellers stepping back, a little bit more, about 43% from the pre-2020 normal, okay? But let's show, like, do you see the bottom bar, 2008?
Wow.
Way different, right? And so it's wild because, 2008, we had over 40,000 listings, right? Now, here's a great stat when someone on Twitter or somewhere else says, nobody is listing their homes. I have 17,000 data points to disagree. There's been over 17,000 listings so far in the region, okay? The problem is it really should be about 30,000, right? About 1,200 condos also. Yes?
Can I ask you a question about in 2008, does that include foreclosures?
It includes anything that hit the market. Yeah, the foreclosures were issued then. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, are we good? Oh my gosh, she's here. There we go.
I'm here if it doesn't though, so just let me know.
Okay, well, it doesn't work up here. It worked back there though, so I'm just gonna point. So it is what it is. So, but I mean, what are you doing that I'm not doing?
You're just touching the button.
I'm literally, like, I swear, I know how to use this.
This was just to keep you on your toes.
It's okay.
David.
Let's point.
My tech guy. Come here.
And let's switch it up. Let's just keep going. We have too much to cover. I don't mind pointing. Here we go. Okay, so in 2000, who was working in real estate in 2007? By a show of your hands. Okay, who was not born in 2000? No. Okay, so you see the black line? That was 2005. That's when actually our market peaked. It wasn't actually 2007, but you can see prices barely went down for a couple of years, but then in 2007, it was just an avalanche down. But here is supply when the market peaked. And you see what happened over the course of 1 year? Supply literally tripled, right? You're like, what would it be like to have 8 months of supply? Imagine that. And so one of the ways that today is different is that we're not seeing supply build like we did back then. And so it feels like the number of sales is really similar, totally different dynamic with supply. And so what do you notice when we look at August 2007, or excuse me, September 2007 compared to this month? That was literally the peak of housing supply. We had 14.3 months of housing supply. So literally, just wrote today on my blog, supply used to be 10 times more in terms of the ratio of sales versus listings. Really crazy. And so we're not seeing a market with building. Now some people go, look, oh my gosh, what's happening there? Okay, yes, there has been an uptick lately, very minor. So here's a different way to look at the same trend. You see the orange line? These are new listings in the region. January through December. Do you see the trend? More new listings for half the year and then less. But what do you notice about 2023? It's lower, right? Absolutely. And here's a different way to look at it. This is basically 2023 in black compared to every other year since 2008. And so do we notice? Yeah, it's just been low. Okay. If that's depressing, hey, put your hope in something else. Okay. And here's pendings. Let us pause for this historic moment. It worked. It worked, guys. Congratulations. I once had a fire alarm go off in a hotel during a presentation. That was fun. I'm sorry. I'm the guy I got actually hurt. And let's see. Let's go to the next one. Pendings, similar vibe. listings are down, pennies are down. That's why I say low supply and low demand are duking it out, okay? Now here's an interesting way to see the market. This is October 1st, the number of active listings every year, 2014 onward. What's your observation as you look at this chart? Feels like about half of active listings. And I know this is only one day, you're like, come on. No, the monthly trend actually looks really, really similar to this right here. But you see how we're missing about 2,000 to 2,500 listings? I think we've gotten so used to having no listings that we're like, this is normal. It's not normal, okay? So how would it feel if we had 8,000 more listings this year? Would the market have felt a little different? Okay, now, and that was only compared to last year. Last year was a low year. What if we had 13,000, right? What do you think prices would be doing? They'd be going down. Would that be healthy? Yes, it would. It goes against our real estate narrative. You're like, you can never talk about prices going down. Oh, you know who needs prices to go down? Buyers, sellers, and my kids to stay in California, and your future kids, you know, I know they're toddlers now, but you know, okay. And so, but really we're in this moment where just like Oprah gave out cars to her audience, you have the Fed who gave out 3% rates, and it felt so good in the moment, but then now we're dealing with the consequences, and now we're like, okay, that's tough, okay? Who has a mortgage rate that's below 4% in your personal residence, yeah? And show your hand again if you're going to sell this year. Yeah. This is exactly what the housing market feels like. That's why we're missing so many listings. Now, if you had a lifestyle change with your family, you're moving out of California, you know, something unexpected happens, you're going to list and I'm going to list. But otherwise, we're like, I'm never going to sell. And, you know, we say that until we don't. Okay. But it's my forever home ever since rates rose and I'm stuck here. And feel free, you're going to get a PDF of this later. Feel free to share the memes and, you know, the stats. I want you to look at visuals and go, okay, here's one that I'm going to share on Facebook or Instagram. I'm going to share this today, share this one next week. Here's the funky way to look at it, though. This comes from calculated risk. Do you see the gray bars up there? Those represent all loans in the United States. The gray is loans that are 5% or lower. And so basically, it's 79.9% of all loans in the United States are 5% or lower. Okay, that bar, it's going to keep going down as we start to get more, you know, mortgages. It was 82% a few months ago, but do we understand why sellers are sitting? Math just doesn't work. Okay, so a lot of people say 5.5% is sort of that inflection point. 5.5% just seems a long way away right now, right? We're going the opposite direction. I tend to agree, but we're also in this place where we've never had a market like this where sellers are sitting. We don't know how long sellers will sit. So I think we have to concede that like this could be a long time. I got to tell you, the more I pay down my mortgage, and the older I get, the less I'm gonna be prone to sell. Okay, but we're in this place. Oh, that was a there we go. Oh. But we're in a place where here's an example of an owner in Folsom who downsized. He had a 2.85% rate, and then he downsized to 5%. Okay, bought new construction, and new construction is doing a lot of rate buy downs. They're tapping into this, so I think they're testing for 5 to 5.5% rates. It's still appealing to consumers. Okay, normal sellers can't do that, but I got to say that there's something here. But this guy's lifestyle, he needed to downsize. And it might not have worked in the resale market. It definitely worked with new construction though. Okay, so just date the rate. That's the message, right? This is creepy. I should try to get rid of this one. So like, don't share that. Remember all those date the rate? You know, go through your social media last year. Like, delete those. I don't recommend keeping them up. Just like, not a good look. So far, dating the rate is not working out. But we're basically, this graph shows that we're missing listings, okay? And this is 2018, 2019, more new listings, more or less every year. Do you see what happened as soon as rates went below 3%? We started to see sellers pull back a few years ago, but you see on the very right side here, what's happened in 2023? Very few new listings, okay? Not a shocker. That was a double. Here's the affordability rates. Affordability index all throughout the Sacramento region. I included Yuba Sutter over there too. Basically, about 25% of households can afford the median price locally. It differs by county, but that only goes through the second quarter. What do you think we're gonna see for the third quarter? Maybe it's gonna be a little lower, so we'll see what happens there. This was Sacramento though, Sacramento County, and you see the very height. In 2012, 74% of households could afford the median price. Does anyone remember what the median price was at the beginning of 2012? I know. It's like that famous Instagram reel, you know, when I was younger, I bought a house for 13 berries. And so, yeah, the median price was flirting with $160,000. That means that half sales were less and then half were more. Crazy. But you can see at the beginning of the pandemic, 47% affordability, and then just, you know, and so it's been stunning to watch. Now, who has done an assumable mortgage? Has anyone here pulled one off? Assumable. You're trying. Okay, has anyone tried and failed? Okay, this is sort of the eye candy of the statistics world where people are like, this is the future. There's even a tech company right now, and they're trying to find all these sellers who you can assume their loans, or, you know, publishing the addresses and trying to work deals. Very, very difficult. But I gotta say this. Assumable mortgage, the idea is that you can assume an FHA or VA loan. If someone has a loan at 2.65%, they go to sell today, the buyer theoretically can assume that mortgage through a process. Now, it is a nightmare, perfect storm of the right buyer, the right seller. It could take 5 months. If the seller has 5 offers, there's no way they're going to choose the assumable mortgage one. But I just want to say this, keep this on the back burner, know how this works, because what happens when a market becomes less affordable? We try to explore other options. Okay. Yes.
What about lease options, which used to be a thing back in the 90s, or seller financing? Does anybody ever? I think the regulations changed a lot after 2008. So
Yeah, I mean, we could see stuff like that. I'm not seeing any you know, crazy stuff.
Does anything like that?
Here and there, probably. But you kind of look, reality buyers are looking assuming the loan is easy, and it's not. But you can kind of see, I assume loans for breakfast. It's a simple process. There are so many loans that can use him. Okay, I've never actually done one. So just be careful about being the loan assumption expert. Honestly, if you do one, you'll probably be the expert locally. Now, I think I came here a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
We talked about, is it cheaper to buy or rent? Rent, definitely. Yeah. Remember I said that it's like the church answer. If you don't know the answer, just say Jesus. And in real estate, if you don't know the answer, then it's always cheaper to buy. It's not true statistically. And so when someone today is faced with, I can rent for $2,300, but it's going to cost, you know, $1,500 or $2,000 more to buy, like that's where the math of the struggle. However, that's where the message becomes about lifestyle. And all that you're talking about online isn't about how the math works. It's about where do you want to be in life? Who do you want to do life with? You know, and that's the only thing that matters. So what do you notice here when we look at September stats? Now I'm going to update these in a few days. This is like really early to pull September, but I want to give you the freshest stuff possible. We had a straggler right there. It's like you didn't get to evaluate. So what does everyone notice when you're looking at September stats? Which stat stands out to you? Below. And so you see, we're starting to see a little bit more sell below than anything else. Is that normal for the time of year? Yeah. These stats, we should actually see it a little bit lower than it is. What about 2021? Do you see the difference? That was our most aggressive market. Do you see how different that market was? And so part of the struggle today is going like, we've got to come off this where everything was selling. You know, if it wasn't selling in the first weekend, to think like, what's wrong with the property? Now it's a different market. You're going to take longer to sell. Totally different dynamic. And so 2021, 2023, or it looked like this, or here's some reality. You feel that, you're like, I feel that in my core, right? But look at 2007. I want us to compare, contrast. What do you notice? Look at 2007. How crazy is that? Where, I mean, it looks like almost everything, you know, about 93% of the market was at or below. And so Is it 2007 again? It feels that way in terms of volume, but competition is something else. I think some people don't believe that when I talk about housing online, they're like, but it's 2007. I'm like, well, but it feels like the love child 2007, 2020, and you know what I'm saying. And so here's a cool way to look at the market. If you don't like this type of graph, just bear with me for just a sec. Okay, anything that's sold above this dark line, 0%, those properties went above the original list price. Anything that went below. Here are prices, okay? And so you can see here's the $2 million property that sold, 12% below or whatever. One of the dangers in real estate though, is that we go like, look at that $300,000 house that sold 20% above, that dot way above there. We're like, oh my gosh, the market is going nuts. I can't believe it. But if we're not careful, we're ignoring the story of all the other escrows. And so it's one of those things with stats where you gotta be really careful that you don't look at a few trees and judge the whole entire forest. And so very important, because equally I could look at this one at 250,000, go, look, it sold almost 25% below. We're trashing, we're tanking. And then it's like, but that's not the story that we see in the whole market. That's my problem with sometimes on Twitter when someone's like, it's an Airbnb bust because this property right here is no longer. I'm like, well, what if that's a problem property, right? Or what if it was a house that was priced $300,000 too high? Is it the market or was it a wonky list price? Okay. Always something to ask. Here's 2007, though, same graph. What do you notice? Almost everything below, just totally nuts. Okay, in 2007, on average, property sold 9% below the original list price. Okay, and then this last month, how many percent below? 2%. Now, has anyone been having sales? In Keller Williams, you got to clap. You get Snicker bars. Just no, we're cutting out Snicker bars. Too costly in this economy. No, I'm just
Kale chips.
Kale chips, yeah. So we do a double clap, and so you might have properties that went 10% above last month, but just the average overall was 2% lower. Okay. Now, has anyone heard that mortgage rates have been increasing lately? Yeah, I know we can't escape it. It's honestly nauseating just to rate news every single day. It's emotional to follow. Okay, so if rates go down, like someone predicted, what would happen to demand? We get more demand. If we cross 8% and go above, what's going to happen to demand? We start to see some buyers. Yeah. And so people ask, we were just talking about the future of the market. It's hard to predict because what happens with rates? What happens with the economy? Okay. But here's a look at a panoramic view from the 70s onward. That was Uncle Rico back in '82. Did you not get the full nightmare reference? I felt like that was at least worth a slight chuckle. And so you can see that rates have basically gone down for multiple decades, but we have a different trend right now, which is why the market feels so different. Okay. And so here's what it looks like though. Rates will be 5.5% soon, and then they've kept going up. Okay, raise your hand if you heard someone in the beginning of the year say that rates would be somewhere around 6% by now. Everyone and their mom, I think they were high on hopium, and so, and this doesn't totally work because people are like, Jack feels good on the raft, and here's a different way, 6% rate soon, and then it's just a different story, right, for USC fans. But really 5%, soon, and then you can see higher for longer is the message that the Fed has been saying. And at some point, it's like, well, should we maybe just believe that that's what's going to happen? And then, it kind of goes like this. Interest rates will be higher for longer. Interest rates will be higher for longer. And then the public's and real estate interest rates will be higher for longer. Rate cuts by the end of the year. And so it's almost like we're taking a totally different message than the Fed is saying. But the Mortgage Bankers Association says that rates in this next quarter will average 6.3. Do they know something that nobody else does? I would be careful about sharing that prophecy because it kind of seems like we're going in the opposite direction. But one of my favorite housing analysts, Ivy Zellman, says, I don't predict rates. Very few people get it right, and I am on Team Ivy in that regard. Okay, be careful.
I don't predict rates.
I don't predict rates because very few people get it right. Okay? And I would think that this year has been evidence of that. Okay, and everyone's erasing those Facebook posts, rates are going to go down. There were some really prominent voices who were like, after the second quarter, we're going down, and it just hasn't happened. Okay, So here's my last one, and I'm sorry, I'm an evil person for saying this, but but you kind of see that, like, and I'm sorry if you don't get the reference. And some people literally were informed, but you can see that, like, higher rates can really affect buyer demand. Absolutely, sorry, I know. But mortgage rates, like, they're like body weight, seems easier to go up than down, just to get something graph. You know, if you step on the scale, you're like, it's mortgage rates. Okay. So let's skip this one. No, let's go back. You guys. I want to make a really powerful point for what to consider for 2024 first quarter. Okay. This graph is all over the place. This is crazy. Okay. This is weekly volume since 2021. And it just goes all over the place by the week. And you see rates in red. What happened as soon as rates skyrocketed to volume? Do you see how volume went down? Okay. But then this is 2023. Why did volume go up in 2023? Does anyone know?
People got used to it.
People got used to it. I think that's part of the truth. And
New homes.
new homes. Okay, maybe. What happens at the beginning of the year? Seasonality. Do you know what happened? We have a seasonal market. Even when the market is dull, even in 2007, do you know what we had? A seasonal market. And so right now the market's really subdued, a really low number of sales, and this blue line is going to go down for the rest of the year. Do you know what's going to happen in 2024? Here's my prophecy. It's going to go back up because we have a seasonal market. Unless like some crazy event happens, you know, we get that, you know, notification or like, oh my gosh, I'm going into hiding. So now here's the months of supply by price range. I don't know if you can see this. This is 200 to 300, 300, 400, on and on and on. And 1.25 to 1.5 million. And what do you notice that the months of supply? What's the trend? The higher the price, the more supply there is. Is that a normal thing?
Yes.
Okay. It actually is. Should we be concerned like, oh my gosh, there's 3 months above a million? So it would actually be normal some months to have 5 to 7 months. Okay, it's actually lower than normal. And so be careful sometimes online where the narrative is like, look at this is crazy, what's happening? And you know, there's not craziness there. Okay. When you look at the number of listings and pendings, I'll update this later this week too. What do you notice by county? Well, let's just look at the above. What's your observation? Are there more listings or pendings?
Under 500,000.
Oh, after your extra credit. Actually, start to eye that. But when you look at all price ranges, there's more actives and pendings. That's not abnormal. That's normal. For March to May, it was like there were way more pendings, right? But what do you notice under 500,000 happen? There are more pendings. And so do we see how the market?
El Dorado's kind of whack.
El Dorado has seen more of an increase in listings lately. It's not at a freakish level. Someone actually emailed me today. They're like, what is happening in El Dorado? But it's not at a freakish level, but it's on my radar to go, okay, what's happening? And some of that could be fire insurance, you know, demand in different areas. But it's actually normal in El Dorado to see more listings. It usually goes like this in the region. El Dorado, Placer, Sacramento for the months of supply. Okay. If we had El Dorado supply in Sacramento, we'd be going down. Okay, that's not what we have here. Okay, but really the takeaway is that the market isn't the same in every single price range. It's going to be very aggressive in some price points if you're priced right. Okay, here's a different way. Let's skip that. Okay, so we're in new territory. We've not had a market like this before. I'm going to give you some quick ones. It'll take time to get buyers back, more time for sellers. We need more affordability. The market is very competitive, it's priced right, and this is probably not going to work out for Travis. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so let me ask you this: it's like, okay, this is fun, but how many times do you have to mention Taylor? I'm like, this is cool, but like, okay, guys, there's got to be some balance. Are we experiencing normal seasonality so far? What do you think? Yes, no, maybe. Yeah. I want to show you sort of the vibe, what's going on, what to expect for the rest of this year. Okay, the market's only hot. The real estate temperature never changes. Very, very false. Okay, so these are the percentage of multiple offers from 2017 onwards. You see how in the beginning of the year there's more multiple offers, and then the temperature changes. There's less, more or less every single year. You see how for 2 years we like shot way above. Like, let's erase those, that's, not good data, but what months do we typically peak for the percentage of multiple offers? May, we could say probably April or May, funky in 2020, absolutely. And so we start to see about half the year where the market's more aggressive, okay? Now this year, what did we peak at in May? Almost 62%. Do you see how it was higher than any year before 2020? Kind of weird for a market that's missing so many buyers. But what about, this is September. No, did I add September? Yeah. September was 51%. What do you notice compared to last year? Yeah, it's higher. Remember how dull the market was last year?
Yeah.
But it's down from the previous 2 years, but do you see how like it's still above where it was before 2020? And so we have a market that feels more competitive than normal, which is freakish considering that we're missing so many sales, right? When you look at pendings over the past 2 weeks by county, what do you notice? What's your observation? These are pending contracts. This is as fresh as we can get with data. Where are pendings, where are multiple offers the highest? Sacramento, yeah. And we can kind of almost like stutter you, but there's very little data there. People are starting to go like, Ryan, I want you to share Sutter U, but that's why it's in there. I'm just trying to be a people pleaser, I guess. Ignore that for now, but lower prices, more competition. Okay, hands down, that's what we see. But you see this number, 46.7, on that graph I just shared, it's going to keep going down because that's what happens during the rest of the year. Okay. So, when do prices normally peak? This is 2015 onward. What months do you see in the region?
June.
June, you see May, June, October, that was 2020. But you see how it's very normal. Okay, sometimes in real estate, we're like, it's always going up. And then it just kind of goes up and down. And so a little bit later this year in July, but we've definitely experienced a peak. When you look at 3 different price metrics, you can check this out on the PDF later. You can see that it's kind of gone down and it's sort of like starting to hover. And so you look at the region, you see how last year, this is 2020 onward, prices screamed up like 40% growth in 2 years is like maybe not healthy. Last year, do you remember that crash landing when the oxygen masks came down? And then this year, what do you see? The spring uptick, and then right now it's kind of leveling off. It looks like August and September will probably be pretty much the same. And what would be normal for the rest of the year? We should dip, absolutely. So here's the weekly median price in black in 2023. What do you notice? Do you see how it's going up, and then do you see how it's kind of flattening? And then the weekly average, similar vibes. Do you see how it's higher than last year? Prices are starting to be higher than 1 year ago. Okay. Have you noticed when pulling comps that there's not that many comps? You might have to use some old stuff, and you just have to be aware that in some cases, like maybe I used something from a year ago, maybe prices are a little higher now. Maybe they're, maybe they were a lot higher. I mean, it's going to be neighborhood by neighborhood. Don't be afraid to use older stuff though. Here's the 6 counties on one graph though. What do you notice since 2009?
Colorful.
Super colorful. Do you notice how all ships rise and fall with the tide though? I spoke in Yuba Sutter last week, and it was fascinating to show this. Even in the lower price counties, that they're kind of resembling what's going on in Sacramento. And so pretty chaotic. Here's Sac and Placer since 1990. What do you notice? Wow, totally. Yeah, they're bust, and then we just went way up. We kind of went down. We're kind of going back up. Absolutely. And then this one's crazy. Do you know what the top line is? It's San Francisco. Do you see how the gray line up here is California? And do you see how, like, in the 90s, San Francisco and California were pretty tight, but then it just totally went way above. And so all ships rise and fall with the tide, but San Francisco has been a different animal, okay? And no wonder why people can, if you check out 90s equity and move somewhere else, like that's pretty great situation. The number of new listings in 2023 in blue, there's been a little bit of an uptick lately, hardly at all in Sacramento. The number of pendings, well, we want to watch what could happen to pendings if we start to see 8% rates and higher. Yeah, we should be going down for the rest of the year, but what we could do is get really low. Okay, now here's something important to consider. Here's a pile of actives and the pile of pendings. Okay, now we're not going to get a lot of new sellers come into the market for the rest of the year. We'll get some, normal, but if this pile no longer grows, then what happens to actives? It starts growing because all these that should be pending start to pile onto the active list. And so this is how we could see supply increase for the rest of the year. And we'll know over the next few weeks. I'll be watching closely, but it's not that like all these new sellers are listing. So has anyone seen this graph from, it's a national graph from Realtor.com? So a lot of people online were making a big deal that supply increased new listings from July to August. And there was a slight uptick. Altos Research, I really trust their research. They've noticed a similar dynamic. This graph right here is only 2017 onward. I'm kind of like, I want to see 20 years. Okay. In Sacramento, about 30% of the time, we see more new listings between July and August. It's a nothing burger here, this trend. If we start to see this go up, though, what will that be a sign of? If something's changing in the market. So I just want to say, watch this, but like, I think a lot of people have this on a magnifying glass. They're like, it's happening. It's happening. And I'm just like, whoa, whoa, buddy. Like, hold on. Let's watch for a trend over a few months. Price drops. Does anyone have listings right now? Okay, yay. Have you done price reductions?
Yes.
Yeah.
We need them badly.
You need them to try to find the market, especially lately, the past month with rates going up. Yeah. I would say like, share that, if it's your flip, you are the seller, right? But it's like share that mortgage calculator with the seller. Even at, the difference in rates over the past month, like it became, it's hard to afford. Sacramento though, here's our price reductions. About 31% of properties over the past 7 days had reductions. It's kind of a normal level, okay? In Placer County, 35%, nothing abnormal. But what happens if properties start to not sell? What happens to price reductions? They're going to shoot up. Okay. Now, October is typically the peak for reductions because
Right for the holidays.
right for the holidays. Because a lot of sellers are like, if you don't sell in October, you're like, I'm just going to ride out the rest of the year and we'll see what happens, And then another agent will take over your listing and sell it in January, right? As long as you can be that agent for other people, right? But I'm saying, share that perspective with sellers to say like, hey, if you're serious about selling, here's what demand looks like. You've got to get on the same page as the market right now. Absolutely important. But drop the price if needed. I think that's the message, right? Here's a different way to see the market. I don't know. Do I have everyone's attention? Because they're like, oh gosh, okay. All right, so do you see this red line? This is properties selling above the original list price. This is the average before 2020. And the market heats up, and what do we see? We see more properties selling above for about half the year, and then the market temperature changes. Okay, now this last month, about 40% of properties sold above, but you see how like in 2023, it's the black line? We've actually been above the normal trend. Like in a normal year, we should be more like about 31% right now. So it's been more competitive than usual. Really strange. What do you think happens to this line if we start to see a change in demand now? Could you imagine this line like starting to really go down? Yeah, so we've got to watch very, very closely. Similar thing with properties selling below, same exact trend. You could, we're sort of not as, we're more competitive than usual for the time of year. Okay. But the market speed has really changed, and I want you to put on your market hat. What do you notice when you look at Sacramento County September sales versus September pendings? I'm not looking for everything something revolutionary here. There's a really simple answer.
The same.
Is it the same? Or is there a subtle difference? You see how it's taking 1 extra day, but the median is 3 extra days. That means that half the properties in September sold in 11 days, and then half the pendings now are 14 days. And so do we see a slight temperature change? Absolutely. And here's a good way to look at it. When you look at the red line and the black line, the red line is what we should see for the rest of the year. It should take longer to sell. By the end of the year, in a normal year, it should take almost 40 days to sell. Far cry from like 7 days, but you can see this black line in a normal year, we should increase. I wouldn't make too much of it. It's flat. That's 1 month.
How do you account for listings that are taken off the market rather than that don't close, that aren't sold?
So these are closed sales. The listings with the highest days on market, it's definitely the listings. There's a huge
But
difference.
do you track? I just see that there's some cases where it looks like people don't want to lower their price, and then they take their house off the market and put it back on the market or put it up for a rental, and it's sort of churning.
Yeah, no, I mean, we can only do so much with just listings. These are closed sales. This is sort of the camp that you want to be a part of. But yeah, listings, it's ridiculous. Some of them have been on the market for a long, long time. Okay, let's skip this one. No worries. Yeah, let's skip that one. No, actually, let's go back. Okay, so in August, it's 23 days to sell. I'm gonna update this for September. I think it's a crazy graph. The numbers right here are August every single year from 2004. Isn't that crazy? It took 95 days to sell in 2007 on average. And so it's been one of the fastest moving markets still. It's just not like, 16 days like it was 2 years ago. All right. Now here's average days on market by price range. What does everyone notice? What's the trend? And I would say almost ignore this because there's very few sales. What do you notice the higher you go? It takes longer to sell. And so remember, like the advice you give to people, you're going to give different advice if that listing is above $1 million. You're not going to have as many people through the property. Here's the median. What do you notice about the median? It's a lot less. This is wild because even in today's market, 300 to 500,000, half the properties in the market were on the market for 9 days or fewer. Okay. And here's this chart with all of them at the same time. I think this chart's really cool. It kind of didn't get very much attention online when I'm just going to try to put it out there, see if it resonates. If you guys hate it, you can be honest, that's okay too. But here's sort of a crazy graph. You can see last month in September, anything that went above this line sold above the original list price, anything below, but this isn't price, these are days on market. What do you notice 0 to 7 days happening above the list price? Do you see how properties get bid up about 7 to 10 days? And the longer you're on the market, the lower you sell from the original list price. Some of this has to do with pricing. Of course, you're going to get way bid up if your price 20% low. We know that. Okay. So the market temperature is changing.
She wants to keep it on that one.
Here's what to expect for the rest of the year if we have a normal season. I would say lower sales volume, lower demand, fewer new listings, fewer multiple offers, more price reduction, softening price, longer days on market, more concessions, lower sales price. Okay. Rates changing can sharpen all of this. Okay. And that's sort of the unknown. If rates keep ticking up, then then it's time to be like, we got to chase the pendings. Okay. You're going to have your sales right here. If your pendings start to go lower, you got to convince your seller. We've got to price according to these guys right here. The sales represent what the market used to be like 30 to 60 days ago when they got in a contract. Okay, so focus heavily on the pendings. But say buyers are frozen, buyers are frustrated, and buyers are hungry. Okay, and so here's mortgage demand though. The reality is it's at 1995 levels. Okay, it's sort of like when you think about the movies that were out in, Billy Madison and Toy Story Braveheart, like mortgage demand is that low. By the way, let's see, what's the best movie here? Clueless, as if. Yeah, Billy Madison, in my opinion, has not held up. I'm sorry. I would say absolutely Waterboy has though, and Happy Gilmore. So my professional opinion, I just wanted to say. But really, it's about the D's. Death, disease, debt, divorce. And the last two questions: what are you going to do with your equity? Where do you want to be in life? That's what, like, when I want you, when you think about your content, I want you to focus on like those lifestyle moves. And when you think about people that are moving because of their lifestyle, what are the reasons why people are going? I think some of the top categories: moving up, moving down, getting married, having kids, leaving California. A lot of people, when they inherit a home today, it's more difficult to divide assets. And so when you think about your content on socials, you push out stats or perspective, you're trying to fish for those people who are like, I have incentive to list right now because I'm leaving California, or whatever the reason is, or it's simply time. There's a lot of first-time buyers. Their life has collided with the market. Whether it's a good time to buy or not, their life now has collided. Okay. So here's the past 60 days in the region. What stands out to you? Because you want to identify who is buying. Conventional is dominant, right? Cash has kind of grown though lately. That's like, when you think about it, 1 in 5 sales, that's a pretty hefty amount. And you look at Sacramento County, what do you notice? Conventional is about the same. Sacramento County is a little bit more FHA, a little bit less cash, right? And then you look at Sac County under 500,000, what do you notice? I like this, someone like to be shared, these two slides, they shared and made a reel out of it and talked about first time buyers. I like that under 500,000 in Sac County, that you could say, look, 1 in 5 buyers are FHA. Like there's hope of getting the contract accepted. Here's a crazy visual. I haven't updated this yet for September, but you can kind of see, like, look at cash. Cash is the highest above 1 million and the highest under 400,000. But look, cash between 400 to 500 was only 13% of the market. Sometimes the buyers are like, I can't compete with cash. Okay, but sometimes it's like you look 400 to 500,000, like over 85% of the market's financed. Look at FHA under 500,000. You could see, that's a really strong point where I think there's a lot of hope for buyers to get accepted. Not that it'd be easy, we all know that. Something to watch. Now, second homes. Do you see the top line here? As you think about trends in business, how to like diversify your business. During the pandemic, this red line went up. These were second homes that people were buying, and it's just fallen off a cliff lately. Okay. Not as easy maybe to get those Airbnb numbers to work. Things really changed with financing them. There was all this conversation about LLPAs, and you could look that up. And so some of it's financing, it's more difficult, but also maybe people, pulling back and, rates are no longer low. It's just, and so as you think about your business, it's obviously not going to be in the second home market right now, but I want you to watch if there is economic carnage, if you want to watch out for it. There's people who bought, their properties they may not be able to hold on to. Okay, don't bank on that, but something to consider. Why has cash been increasing then? This is 2009 onwards. What's up with that? How come there's more cash in the market right now?
Interest rates at the time.
Yeah, because mortgage rates are higher, and then who is here? Buyers that aren't subject to mortgage rates. Okay, but there's a big asterisk here. Okay, and I want to show you. Where is all the cash coming from? It's really money laundering. Okay. That's why it's a joke on Twitter. I think some people really believe that. This is a great show. Where are my Ozark people? Yeah, that's what's up. Okay. All right, so do you see this top line? This is the percentage of all sales. That's conventional. Do you see how when we look and go, about 60% of the market's conventional? Do you see cash increasing in blue? Okay, now let me show you what's happening statistically, because we aren't seeing all these cash buyers technically. This is the number of sales, not just the percentage. The top line is conventional. What is happening with conventional sales over the past couple of years? Do you see how they've really tanked? Do you see the blue sales? Those are cash. Do you see how they've also gone down? But here's the deal. Cash is basically just a greater percentage of this low amount that's here. And so it's not that like everyone and their mom is coming with cash. I mean, technically it feels like that, but
The same.
but yeah, it's just that there's more cash. So for you, I want to ask you, where are the cash buyers? Like you've got to tap into that trend of people who are using just cash, because it is a greater sliver of the market. It's just as soon as we see any relief with affordability, these percentages are going to change. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, I wrote about it. Like email me. I'll get something to you. Bay Area. Has anyone seen Bay Area migration still? You seen Bay Area buyers? Okay, they're always here. However, here's some stats from John Burns Real Estate Consulting, and they show that in the Bay Area, that it used to have strong outbound migration, and it's beginning to contract. And then Sacramento is up here and used to be the recipient of really strong inbound migration, and it's begun to change. And so I think word on the street when I talk to builders, when I talk to agents, is that we're not seeing that 2021 Bay Area flex any longer. Okay, and so but that we will always have Bay Area buyers. They are still here now, but just kind of be careful of that. Okay, so there's less Bay Area buyers, but a Bay Area buyer is going to buy my house. Like just, that's where you want to share that slide and sit with your seller and say, hey, we've got a price for the local market, because even with John Burns Real Estate Consulting shows that migration is contracted. You see how that's powerful? We've got to get sellers on the same page. So this is new construction. Though, raise your hand if you sold new construction. Okay, and if you have not, then I hope that these slides that you go, oh my gosh, I'm going to change the way that I'm marketing. This is volume from 2012 onward by month. What do you notice about new sales in 2023 at the very edge compared to previous years? Do you see how it's really high? Okay, it's basically the second highest year over the past decade. And so why is new construction doing so well?
Even though it's incentives.
We don't have this trend without the incentives, okay? Here's what the resale market looks like, the existing market. Do you see how it's basically the exact opposite trend where like volume is really low for there, but new construction, it's gone higher. And so buyers getting builder concessions, this is what it feels like sometimes, you know? Last year, do you remember when the market got really dull? Some people got some killer deals before the year was up because the builders want to close on their books. And so I'm not saying that's going to happen this year, but I would keep your eyes peeled on standing inventory. The homes that are already built, those are the ones that are existing new construction that are going to get back concessions. And so be on the lookout for your buyers. Now, last year I was astounded by a couple of examples. I'm like, you got it for what? And so, you know, just be ready. But oh, there we go. What city had the highest number of sales though? Roseville. On average, when this data comes from North State BIA, Roseville has usually 25 to 29% of all sales in the region. And so when you think about your book of business, where are people moving? You want to think about places like Roseville, you know, and you know, Folsom, and typically Lincoln, Roseville, Rancho Cordova, Folsom. These are all areas where population is growing. Okay?
They have them planned, is that?
So, yeah, okay, so okay, I'll show you building permits. I mean, there's been a real emphasis on Roseville on growth. Sacramento County has, I mean, we're huge. It's just, we're not getting done like Roseville. So Roseville also has the most number of listings. And so it's not like there's no listings there for new construction. Here's you can look at this later. There's a cool link and you can download that. But basically, these are permits in Sacramento County in 2005. Do you see how we are way higher than Placer? But do you see right now how Sac and Placer are kind of competing? Even though Sac is so much larger, it's just, and so as you look at this, you want to identify like, who do I need to get to know in Roseville? And people are moving Bay Area migration to Roseville, even though that's cool. Like, we just want to be aware of that, okay? Paul Folletta, if you know him, I love seeing him on Instagram doing a reel about Delta Shores in Sacramento. I think that's really, really smart because here's the money slide. Okay. So this is kind of confusing at first, but I think that this is really, really compelling. Okay, 2012 through 2023, the blue bars are the existing sales market, okay, on MLS. And then the yellow portion is new construction on top of that. And so you see how new construction used to be 8% or so. And right now, though, we're about almost 26% of the entire market when you add the existing and new is brand new. And so if you're not focused on new construction, do you know what you're missing right now? About a quarter of the entire market. Isn't that wild to think about? And so I want you to begin focusing on this. An agent that I talked to recently, you know, was like, I thought it was going to be easy. My first new construction deal. I'm like, aha, it wasn't, you know. And so it's not going to be easy there too. But where are people buying? Where are they going? And think about it this way: if rates go up, do you know what builders are going to do? They're going to have to figure it out how to be that tractor beam for buyers. Yes.
So I have an issue right now. I have somebody in contract on their new home, and we got in contract in August, but their new build's not going to be done until December, and so they're afraid that it's not going to be valued as it should. What do you suggest them in that situation?
I think that's tough. I don't know. I don't know that there's any one great solution, but if we start to see prices decline, that's going to be a paramount issue. The buyers are going to be, am I comfortable or not with buying?
They're already in contract. Yeah.
And then you can lose your deposit. Like it becomes sketchy, you know. If we knew the future perfectly, that would help the promise. But the problem is we don't, you know. And so I don't know what to say other than they're going to have to gauge their comfort level, you know. But I would probably approach the builder, see if they can wheel and deal. If you see those models start to sell for less.
Yeah, they really don't want to lose it.
Yeah, I'd be like, hey, brother, you know, can we talk here? And, you know, flex your negotiation skills, see what you can do. Okay. No, you'll love me until one of your deals goes south. Yeah. You're like, and then you're like, oh, that. This was a survey. What I like about surveys is that, especially by John Burns, is that this is sort of market data before you see it show up in the stats. And what they're starting to notice in Northern California here, you can see some of the time builders are starting to say that insurance is starting to become an issue. Okay. And so this is something we want to watch. Have you had escrows where insurance has been an issue?
Yes.
This is a thing, okay? We want to pay attention to this. These are fair plan policies. Unfortunately, this only goes through 2021, but you see how in gray is Eldorado and Placer is orange. Do you see how there was a massive increase of fair plan policies? After crazy fires, after 2017, we started to see a real change, okay? And then the next one, these are when insurance companies have dropped insurers. And you can see even in Sacramento County, our largest local county, there's been an uptick. And again, that only goes through 2021. What happens when you get 2 years here? Like, you got to know probably 2 or 3 reputable insurance agents. You got to have your insurance figured out, especially property and fire insurance. Like, you know, or there's over the past couple of weeks, I've had a couple of people the past month talk to me about insurance issues, and you know, they get dropped and then they're getting quotes for 2 to 3 times the amount. And so just stay in touch with that stuff, because that might be a signal that some people need to do something with their house. Okay. Or they need to get out of California, or they need your referral to say, talk with this agent to help get your insurance under control. Does that make sense? I think you got to be a resource to people. So property owners, it's more difficult to divide assets today and at higher rates. I would really emphasize focus on maybe probate attorneys if you can. Because you think about who are the gatekeepers to the types of business that's happening. I think a lot of times estate attorneys, probate attorneys who family member dies and they're dealing with the property in a trust. And then that property might get listed, it might not, maybe a family member buys out, but you gotta like find the gatekeepers so that you can do business, do that sort of business. 2 to 4 units, does anyone do 2 to 4 units? Okay, there's one person. That means I'm going to be really quick on this slide. So this just over time shows the percentage of sales. And I just want to emphasize that 12.5% of sales so far this year have been FHA or VA. The overwhelming majority of 2 to 4 units use conventional or package, but there is that place where someone's like, hey, I'm going to live in one side and rent that. Like, that does happen. Okay. Now, who, by show of hands, has credit card debt now? No, I'm just kidding. You can see consumer loans, credit cards, auto loans. This is nationally, and you can see a spike. Now, it's not to where it was in 2007, but these are going the wrong direction. And look, I'm not a preacher of doom, but what could that mean for some people who are getting into economic trouble? You want to pay attention to what your clients are dealing with. What could that potentially mean for people? How do they deal with that? To keep their house or to sell their house? You want to watch that. Sacramento, here's a local chart. There's an awesome link when you get the PDF. I want you to download that. This was a couple quarters ago, but you can kind of see an increase in some of the credit card debt. We don't have a problem with mortgages and delinquencies right now. Okay, but we want to pay attention to the credit card stuff. Okay, I think I shared this a few weeks ago. Bank loan sales increased 700% from 1 year ago in Sacramento. One already last year, then 7 this year. So it's amazing how you can make math, work for your narrative. Here's what foreclosures look like. Short sales. I mean, they're such a minor portion of the market. Think about this. They're about 0.5% of all sales, but sales have been really, really low. And so imagine if we had a normal number of sales. And so again, this is a good graph to share to say, like, we don't have that 2007 dynamic at the moment. Okay. Student loan repayments. Who has credit card debt and student loans? Do we see what's happened? There's been a spike up lately as payments are going to resume. Okay, and so we want to watch this because it diminishes affordability for buyers, but it also means that there's less money that people are keeping in their bank accounts. And so we just want to watch to see how that pans out. Has anyone sold a house that was built in 2022 or 2021? Wow. Very difficult. I think that's the most difficult house to sell because all of a sudden the builder might have a lower price and back concessions. And so you can look that up. I don't know what happened with these eventually, but it was interesting to see sort of a brand new model advertised for lower or brand new advertised compared to something that sold.
I have that issue right now.
Very challenging, right? Because then the buyer's like, or the seller's like, well, I have a backyard that I installed it. I don't care. backyard or 5.5% rate, you know, I mean, and so, yeah, it doesn't even matter. One of the things, people are still looking for acreage, okay, absolutely, anyone like this show, Yellowstone? My wife does, I don't, I can tell you later why I don't, super sensational. But watch that, people leaving California and people coming to the state, there's some stats you can check out later. I think this would actually be a really cool reel because a lot of people are like, everyone hates California, it sucks here, the governor, this, but then you don't realize that like, there's actually a lot of people that came to the state. See, 7.7 million people left, 5.8 million people came. Do we ever hear about the 5.8? No, because it doesn't fit the narrative. So just be aware of your narrative. Short sales. Huge market right now, right? No, not really. Okay. Oh, there was my magic. There we go. Here are properties, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. You can see serious delinquencies. Look how low they are. See how they shot up during forbearance? Very, very tiny levels. Black Knight, similar dynamic. They're a great data source, incredibly low levels. And so you're telling me I might be able to get a cheap foreclosure? No. Dana Miller, does anyone know Dana? She's an agent with a different brokerage. She sold a property in June. She sold all of the short sales in the whole region in June. There was only one. And I made her, I actually made her a certificate. And I'm not gonna get people actually. I actually don't know her well, and so I was like, I wonder how is she gonna laugh, or I was like, submit. That says you successfully sold every single short sale in the region in the month of June 2023. There was only one, but this is still a major.
Did she?
She did. She did. And I always remind people, the joke is not what we don't struggle, the joke is a stats joke. So, anyway, so grow the market so hot. I want to walk through the last things is volume and prices. And so if you can hang in here with me for a sec, I hope there's some perspective here. So let's we're going to zoom through these next slides. So I want to show you last year to this year what's happened with volume. Do you see the very top bar? That's June 2022. And I want you to pay attention to this little sliver, this guy right here, June 2007. So this is June every year. So we'll go June, July, August, September, October. Oh, we're getting close, right? We're getting close. Are we going to get there in November? November. Worst November ever. Yes. Okay. December, January, February, March, April, May. The market's back, baby. We are back. June. Oh, okay. Just July. We're back. Sort of. August. We're right there. September. Okay. So we were above in September. We're back, baby. So do you see how volume has been flirting with basically the worst levels ever? But isn't it weird that the market feels really, really competitive? And so do you see how it feels like 2007 with sales, but everything else is just totally different, okay? So here's kind of the creepiest way I can say the market. It's like 2020 competition, 2007 volume. And like I said, 2007 volume vibes, 2020 competition vibes. I think this is actually an awesome way to describe things. If you're looking for ways to describe the market, whether it's on your reels or wherever, like, you know, use this stuff. It's all about our language to communicate, okay? Here's volume. Do I still have your attention? Because like I have some cool stuff to share, and I want you to avoid some stats mistakes. So do you see this green line? This is the average before 2020 volume. Do you see how it goes up? And then it goes down for the second half of the year. Do you see 2022 in black? What did it do last year? Do you see how it just like took a detour from the trend? Absolutely. And here's 2023. Do you see how it's been lower? But do you see how it's getting close? And we can be like, if we compare this year to last year, oh, volume is like, it looks really good. But do you know what the real stat is? Let's compare it to the green line. Okay, and then 2007, do you see how it's the blue line? That's why I say that 2007 is flirting with 2020 or 2023. Okay, so volume's down, but my spirits are up. Right? That's the mantra. If we compare last year, it looks like volume is only down 12%. That's what I mentioned, right? But do you remember that line, that really low line last year and then this year? Let's look at the average, and you can see that the average has been down about 36%, 42% SAC, and it's different. Do you see how plaster's not down as much? And so again, the market isn't the same everywhere. But that's the message that I want everyone to just have that sobering reality, like expect for low volume unless something changes the trajectory of the market, okay? Through August, we're missing about 7,000 sales. That number will be above 8,000 this year when I update my stats. But about 12,000 sales have happened, or now 13,000 sales have happened so far. 13,500, whatever the number is. And so again, so it's sort of one of those mindset things. What are you going to focus on? The part of the market that's missing, or the part of the market that's happening? You get to choose, right? So position yourself as part of the market that's happening. That's my advice. I just say this is a cool image. Does anyone focus on the high end here? The high end. You're like, what? The high end? Over the past 60 days, 1.6% of all sales were above 1.5 million in Sacramento County. Okay. Do you see where the bulk of sales are happening? 400 to 600,000. Do you see how 50% of the market is within that range? I don't know if this is a sexy image to share on your socials, but like convey some of these concepts. But I have a friend in real estate who focuses on this price range in Sacramento County, and I think it's super smart because that's where the bulk of buyers are. You might be like, I want to be the baller. That's fine. If you want to be that person, it's a very tiny pond and it's pretty crowded. Okay. So prices. Let's look at prices. What prices are doing? Let's go. So here's what someone said. I want to share a couple of Twitter examples. Someone was like, I'm going to stand right here. Anyone buying any of this trash deserves to be fleeced or lose it all. I'm like, oh, what a nice message to wake up to. That's a strong take. Why would you say that? Seriously, we've had the steepest parabolic housing real estate bubble in the last 3 years. There's only pain and suffering ahead. And so I just want to give some examples of some of what I'm saying. Yeah, but listen to yourself. People buy in all sorts of markets and your words are harsh. Some are going to buy today regardless of market conditions. The market isn't just one thing for everyone. If we say it is, that's a pretty narrow view. Okay. So that was me very diplomatically saying, you're very narrow-minded. Okay. That's not just about you, brother. Like, the market's bad for me. Okay, that's wonderful. It might be good for, 13,000 other people who bought this year. Okay. We're going to have this moment. Do you see the black line? That's price of the median price in the region in 2023. Do you see how it's lower than last year? But do you see how it started to like connect with last year? And so what's going to happen, if we have a sharp decline, we could have this moment ahead where prices and go back, where prices are just the same as 2021 and 22, everything colliding. But you know what's actually going to happen? The black line, it started to go above where it was last year. And I'll show you that in just a sec. Okay. And so that's September so far. Do you see that dotted line? Okay, now what would be normal is to see this kind of dip and maybe rise a little bit for the rest of the year. But you see how we're kind of starting to be above where we were? And last year was really sharp. But what happens if we start to get rates really go up? Could we be sharp again? We could be. Something to watch. What I want you to watch with comps though is sometimes when you look back, prices might be similar to 1 year ago, but they might be similar also to the end of 2021 or very beginning of 2022. Don't be afraid to look at older stuff. We simply have to. If there's 40% fewer sales, guess what? There's 40% fewer comps. Okay. So this is the peak. I haven't updated it for September yet because stats aren't ready, but it's going to be basically the same. Do you see how year over year, even when we add in September, it's going to be about the same where prices are up slightly. Okay. But here's what we also want to watch. Here's how much they're down from the peak in May 2022. And it's safe to say we're down about 7%. Okay. Now, in some neighborhoods, could that be 10% or more? Absolutely. Could that be 3% in others? Sure. Look to the comps. But when someone looks at this, if the seller can actually sell, they can still sell at a historically high price. It's just like, where are you going to go? Okay. I have heard more of some investors going, I don't want to be that investor. There we go. Here we go. That alarm definitely won't work next time. So some investors going, I'm tired of being a landlord. Like look for those people, okay, where they can check out of the market. Here's California. Do you notice similar vibes compared to what Sacramento? This only goes through August. Here's Sacramento County. Looks very similar. Don't make too much of it going up. Oh my gosh, the market's recovered. It's 1 month. Okay. Here's Placer County. Similar vibes, right? All ships rise and fall with the tide. I'd say the housing market feels like a relationship that's been struggling, just had a good vacation. There's some excitement at the moment, but there's some deep underlying problems, right? So it's like prices are prices are down, this is awesome, but then you're like, oh, but volume, right? And so it's something to watch. And then here's the last conversation I had before the closing slides. Do you believe home prices will continue to increase in the Sac area? I decided to buy now instead of waiting and paying more in the future. It's also crazy how home prices increase with these crazy interest rates. And then I said, you are totally screwed. It's all gonna collapse. We're all gonna die. Get ready for painful destruction. It's coming. It's just a matter of time. Just wait. No, here's the real. So I won't bore everyone with reading that, but what I want you to do is to think about your narrative. You don't have to convince anyone of anything. Say like, look, here's what's happening right now with rates. Here's what's happening with prices. My job is not to convince you. Here's what affordability looks like right now. Okay. You don't want to manipulate someone to someone into something anyway. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, so here's the last price visual. I want to show you how prices normally work. This is kind of a crazy way to see the market, but this represents 4 years of change. And you can see in February, normally the median price goes up by 3%. And you see in March, the median price goes up between February and March by 3.5%. Do you see how in September, we usually dip 0.82%? Does that make sense? And so here's how it normally works. Look at, normally from February to June, we go up 13%, and from July to January, we go down 6%. And so do you see how by the end of the year, we might be up like 6 or 7%, but it's kind of like, okay, does that make sense? And so this black line here is 2023 so far. Does it look kind of normal? Yeah, kind of normal vibes. And we'll see where it goes. Could this really change? Like last year, it was like, oh my gosh, the line looked crazy last year. Okay, so let's see what rates do. Here's other craziness with all these years together. It's kind of in the middle of what the years look like for price change. Okay, here's 1975 onward, and this actually is the last graph that I'm going to share. Thank God. What do you notice? 1975 onward. In Sacramento, it's a Freddie Mac price index adjusted for inflation. It's gone up over time overall, but you also see up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay. Normally the market goes up for maybe somewhere 7 to 8 years, and then it usually declines for 5 to 6 years. We have a weird dynamic right now. I think it's been felt artificial this year. Since we have 40% fewer sellers, I think it's kept prices from going down. Okay. It would be really healthy for them to go down. I don't get to make the rules though. But I should say, you can kind of pay attention to this stuff, like just know what normal looks like, and then you got 2023. So sometimes unexpected things happen. It's just true. No one saw this coming. Thank you for the laugh. I appreciate you. Pay you later. But so far, we're marked safe from the Silicon Valley market, or from the debt ceiling crisis, or forbearance crisis, or foreclosure moratorium, and we could go on and on. The government shut down, the student loan crisis, vacant homes, it's Airbnb, and it's just there's these doom prophets that every single week it's like you're preaching this message of, and then you change your message, and it's like, okay, that didn't work out. Now let me just say something else now. There's no credibility there. I don't listen to people like that because there's no credibility. Okay, but I'd say the only thing you can control is your mindset. You can't control the market, but you are in charge of up here. And so what are you going to do to, cultivate health, and to not obsess over the stats, even though I know that's ironic. I just shared a bunch of stuff with you, but you somehow have to not let those influence you do every single day. Like I always say, like if we entered a downward cycle, we're in a downward volume cycle right now. The volume has crashed. We haven't seen that with prices, but it's kind of like I always think about my wife and my kids. I got a near 20-year-old. Oh my gosh, how did that happen so quickly? And a 17-year-old. And I'm like, am I going to be a miserable guy for the next 5 to 6 years if prices went down? Or am I going to somehow show up with joy and be a good dad and be a good husband? And so it's like, are the circumstances going to define me or not? Okay, the last thing, so closing unsolicited advice. Are we ready? I swear this will be quick. It'll be like Keller Williams. You sold a house that. Okay, so number one, be patient. We need time to see the trend. Here we do. Plan for low volume and low supply. I think this is the smartest thing to do for. If we are in new territory, that's how it is right now. And if something else happens, wonderful. I would plan for this stuff. Watch Selling the OC to pick up tips for success. Grow your network by playing pickleball. Seriously, find things to do, whether it's pickleball or not. I played pickleball once and I was like overwhelmed. I'm like, guys, I'm not ready to join the cult, like, not the enemy, I don't wanna play with you, like, maybe I'll play with it. It's crazy, but find your people, you gotta get in front of people today with your hobbies, like whatever you're doing, you have to increase the size of your network. If you are not increasing the size of your network, you're shooting yourself in the foot. What is your plan for increasing the size of your network? You have to increase the size. Be a fat sniper instead of a shotgun. Don't take this PDF later and just spray it to all your clients. I want you to take it in small chunks, share one thing here and there. I hope that everyone kind of picked up some little nuggets. That's the goal. How can you tell the story of the market? How can you show your expertise? That's the goal. Be that sniper instead of that overwhelming shotgun like I just was. Okay. Look for lifestyle buyers. We talked about that. Divorce, exiting California, inheriting homes. Tailor your content around that stuff. Have a plan, work it, and be consistent no matter what. Get in front of people. Who are the gatekeepers to the type of work you want? Hands down, ask that question. Build a relationship with probate attorneys and CPAs. I think that's a good chunk of the market. When you think about people who have incentive to sell their homes, it's the people who are inheriting stuff. Okay. And so, handle that tactfully, I'm your realtor and life and jets. If you died recently, a family member, like just, handle that. Be open to off-market transactions. That's a good chunk of the market. The last two things, diversify your practice. I want you to think about land, 2 apartments and condos and outlying areas and acreage. Like, what do you need to do if you haven't done before? Whether it's Airbnbs or new construction, like, you got to increase what you're doing because probably what you're doing right now, it might not be enough. Okay. And last but not least, I keep saying that. There's 2 more, I swear. I promise. Successful forever escrow. Why did the seller sell? Why did the buyer buy? Anytime, people are doing announcements, you sold, like ask that person privately later, like, why did the seller sell? Why did the buyer buy? Because it'll be clues for you on how to focus your business. Okay. You might pick up clues for how to talk about the market too. Be like, oh my gosh, I started to hear this trend, whether it's divorce or estate or whatever it is. And the last but not least, I would say be generous and authentic. It's so good for business. I hate when people in real estate or any other profession, when I sense an agenda on their part. Okay. Now the agenda that I do like, that agenda that's authentic, where you love people, where you're looking out for their best interests. Like I love doing business with people like that. And so I just want to ask you, how are you going to be remembered in today's market? We haven't had a price crash. We have a volume crash right now. How are people going to remember you if they go through economic struggle? How are you going to show up for them in their lives? I would say be as personable as possible and go get it. So that was me. Thank you everyone for the opportunity. And you gave me an hour and 15 minutes. Okay, so sorry if it down. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Everyone got another round of applause. Everyone have something?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. And everyone have a great day. There's some more food, so go ahead and have it and go sell some homes.